Hi, in this playlist we're looking at the Edexcel paper 3 from June 2018, and it's the higher tier paper. In the previous videos we've been looking at questions up to question number 16, so in this we're going to be continuing on with question 17 onwards. Please do have a look at each of the questions, do try them for yourself, stop the video and then compare your solutions. I'm going to aim for this video to be about 20 to 30 minutes in length, and that should give you about an hour's worth of focused revision. Okay, so on with question number 17, where we have a shape and they're asking us to work out the length of AD, which is actually this length along here. Okay, so there's a couple of things that you need to be aware of perhaps with this, is that with a lot of these types of questions, they tend to have a couple of different disciplines, a couple of different areas that you need to look at. So the first one is that in order to work out A, we actually will need to work out X. Okay, now the reason that that is the case is because to work out A, we can use the cosine rule, and that will then allow us to work that out fairly easily. But in order to work out or use the cosine rule, we have to get X first, and to get X we're going to use the sine rule. So with these types of questions you need to know usually sine rule, cosine rule, and things like Pythagoras sometimes with a right angle triangle will creep into it. Okay, so the first thing is I'm going to look at sine rule, where I'm going to say X over sine of 34 degrees. Remember that it's the opposite, okay, is exactly the same as 12.5 divided by the sine of 109 degrees. Okay, hopefully that's all right for you and you're going to be able to follow this. There are some videos on the playlists or on the channel that you're able to also practice this. So if I cross multiply by sine 34, I'm going to get X equals sine 34 degrees times 12.5 divided by the sine of 109. Okay, and if I pop that into a calculator, what I should get is that X will give me a value of 7.39267. So in other words, this value is 7.4 centimeters. And then really it's a case of popping that back into the cosine rule. So I'm just going to slide this up a little bit, but hopefully we'll be able to work this through, that I can say that A squared, which is what I'm actually interested in, is equal to B squared plus C squared minus 2BC cosine A. Okay, now I always write the full formula out, and it just really helps me to remember it. So as part of your study, it's good to always write the formulas. Okay, so B squared is 11.4 squared. C squared is actually going to be this value of X that we've just worked out. Okay, so I'm going to write it out in full, 7.39267 squared minus 2 times B, which is 11.4, times C, which is 7.39267, times the cosine of 86 degrees. Okay, so hopefully you're able to follow this along with me and you've been able to calculate that through, because by the time you finish calculating that through, it's a good idea actually just to do the two separately, because this is minus 2 times those. Okay, so I'm going to do this bit of it first, and what I should get is 0.6115697 minus that lot, which is 11.75765,427. Now ordinarily you'd probably do all of this in a calculator, so you don't need to write everything out in the way I have, but it's just it's a good discipline because I think it does help you to engage with the problem. Okay, and so that gives me A squared, so the value of A at long last is 13.14739. Now, okay, with this, please do check the actual question again, because it does ask me to give the answer correct to 3 significant figures. So I'm going to look at the third significant figure, which is 1. I'm going to keep it as 1 because actually that 4 there isn't sufficient for me to change this to 2. So I'm actually going to give my answer as 13.1 centimeters for the value of AD. Okay, hope that's all right for you. You'll be able to follow through. Please do practice sine and cosine rule because they do come up on a lot of these exams. Okay, let's have a look then at question number 18. And question number 18 is a show that. So what we need to do is to show that the equation has a solution between 1 and 2. What they mean by that is that x must be between 1 and 2. It's not the actual solution. Well, the answer of the equation is actually 7, but they're saying the solution is actually a value of x. So it can be just a little bit tricky just to remember those sorts of things. Okay, but let's look at what happens when x equals 1. So when x equals 1, I can plug that into this particular equation, and what I get is 1 cubed plus 1, and 1 cubed plus 1 is going to be 2. Okay, so that's my first value of x. My second value of x is when x equals 2. Okay, so I've got now 2 cubed plus 2. Now 2 cubed plus 2 is going to be 10. So what we're saying is, yes, absolutely, the value of x must be somewhere between 1 and 2, because the actual solution, the actual answer is 7, which is between 2 and 10. Okay, so I can write in something like, therefore x must be between 1 and 2, and that would be fine for that sort of question. Okay, next bit of it is show that the equation can be rearranged to give this. Okay, now this is a particular topic which again is new to GCSE, but it's called iteration. So if you do get the opportunity, please do have a look at some of these rearranging. And basically what we're saying is we're taking this one of these values of x and we're going to rearrange the formula to make x the subject. Okay, now without going too far in this particular video, there are differences between making one of these x's the subject and this x the subject, and that's really outside the scope of this particular video. But because we're looking at the cube root, then hopefully you'll be able to see that if I move this x over to the right hand side, I get x cubed equals 7 minus x, and the cube root of x is now going to be x equals the cube root of 7 minus x, and that's it for that particular question. Okay. And then an actual application of the iteration formula is, it says, starting with x0 equals 2, use the formula 3 times to find an estimate for the solution. So what we're actually doing with this is that we are refining from the value of 2 the value of x. We're refining our answer to get a value of x which is closer and closer to the true value, so that when we plug it into the formula we actually get 7 as an answer. Okay, so I'm going to start with x0 equals 2, okay, which is exactly what they asked us to do, and then I'm going to take that value and I'm going to plug it into the iteration. I'm calling x1 is the cube root of 7 minus 2. Okay, so this 2 gets plugged into here. Okay, and if I put that in a calculator, I'm going to get 1.709975,947. Now, with these types of questions, it's really good practice to write out as many digits as is available on your calculator. Now there is a reason for that, and we'll get to that just a little bit later on. So x2 is going to be taking this answer and plugging it in. Okay, so I'm going to write the cube root of 7 minus the answer. Okay, so it's this answer that's gone into there, and you can just use the key in your calculator, and when you press the equal sign you'll get 1.7424188. Okay, you might get slightly different to me, but it'll be there or thereabouts. Okay, all right, finally is x3, and what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to take that answer, the previous answer, this one, and I'm going to plug it into here, and that's going to give me 1.738849506. Okay, so I've used the iteration formula 3 times to find an estimate for the solution, and what I'm actually going to say, just for clarity here, is that actually my solution is 1.74 to 2 dp, or decimal places. Okay, so it gives the examiner at least confidence that I know a little bit about this question, and I could carry on with it, and hopefully I'll find that this accuracy to 2 decimal places will improve to 3 or to 4, and there are some questions that will ask you to do that. Okay, let's move on then to question number 19. We're about halfway through the video. I'm going to try and finish the whole paper if I can within this video, but we'll have to see how the time goes. Okay, so here are 2 right angle triangles, and given that, oh gosh, I hate given that, but given that the tan of E equals the tan of F, okay, and all they mean is that the tangent value for this is equal to the tangent value for this. So the tangent value of E is equals the tangent value of F. Okay, well, what is the tangent value? Well, if you remember SOHCAHTOA, what we've got is we can label the diagram to opposite, hypotenuse, again, opposite, hypotenuse, and the ones that are left are the adjacents. Okay, now the tangent ratio is the opposite divided by the adjacent. Okay, so we can use that. We can say that tangent equals opposite divided by adjacent, and that's what we're interested in applying with this particular question. Now, it is a little bit tricky to work through, but hopefully you'll be able to follow me, that I'm saying that actually the tangent of this first triangle is x divided by 4 minus 1, and the tangent of this angle, F, is going to be 6x plus 5 divided by 12x plus 31. And what we're going to do is just basically use this information to work out the value of x. Okay, so I'm going to write this as I've just said it, as x over 4x minus 1, and that equals 6x plus 5 divided by 12x plus 31. So in other words, we're saying the tangent of E is equal to the tangent of F. Okay, so one of the tricks, or one of the things that I do use a fair bit actually, it seems to come up quite a lot, is we can cross multiply these. So we can actually say I'm going to multiply that by that and that by that, and what I actually get is x times 12x plus 31, and that's going to be equal to 4x minus 1 multiplied by 6x plus 5. Okay, so this is a point in the video where I might just do things that are not quite what you would do, but this would be the way I would work it out, okay? And I'm hopeful you'll be able to follow it through, okay? It should be fairly straightforward once you've had a little bit of practice with these sorts of things, but they are quite tricky. We're looking really at about level 7, level 8 at these sorts of levels. Okay, so I'm going to multiply this out. So I'm going to get 12x squared plus 31x, and that's going to be equal to 24x squared plus 20x minus 6x minus 5. Okay, we need to tidy that up, and also because we're going to factorize it, we need to make it equal to 0. So there might be a couple of steps that you might do in here, but for the purposes of the video, I'm just going to try and keep it as straightforward as I can. Okay, so I'm going to make it equal to 0. I'm going to bring this 12x squared to the right hand side, and I've got 12x squared because I'm going to take it away from the 24. I'm also going to bring these two together, and that makes 14x, and then I'm going to take the 31x away, and I'm going to get minus 17x, and then minus 5. Okay, so there might be a couple of jumps in there. Now, we need to factorize this. Now, the way I would factorize this is I know that 12 times minus 5 is minus 60. I also know that the two factors that multiply together to make minus 60 and add together to make minus 17, this one here, is going to be minus 20 and plus 3. Okay, so I can rewrite this equation in the form 12x squared, and rather than writing minus 17x, I'm going to write plus 3x minus 20x minus 5. Okay, and then the technique is I factorize the first two terms and then the last two terms. Okay, so the first two terms, I factorize those two by 3x, I get 4x plus 1. And if I factorize both of those by minus 5, I get 4x plus 1. Okay, so what it allows me to do is to then take these two as a common term and rewrite this as 3x minus 5 multiplied by 4x plus 1. Okay, now that all equals 0. It's not to everybody's taste, because I know there will be some students out there who will get to maybe something like this point and maybe use quadratic formula, and that's perfectly fine. Or you might have a slightly different technique of factorizing, and again, that's perfectly fine as well. It's down to you and your experience, is no problem at all. This kind of technique works for me because I can see from this that I've got two values of x. One value is x is 5 over 3, and the other value, or minus 1/4. Okay, so to answer this particular question, I'm going to find the value of x. Well, the value of x is not going to be minus 1/4 because it doesn't exist. Okay, because you can't actually measure this. We have to have a value of x which is a positive number. So with this particular type of question, that doesn't exist. So therefore x equals 5 over 3. And that would be the answer to this particular question. Okay, I hope you followed that one all right, and you haven't had too many problems. It's now 18 minutes into the video and we've got 2 more questions to go, so I think we'll just press on if that's okay with everybody. Please do stop these videos as you're working through. Do have a go at these and see if you can get a similar sort of solution. Okay, let's go on to question number 20. Okay, now question number 20, I've kind of been dreading a little bit because I've got to do one of my legendary diagrams, and doing them on this kind of video is quite tricky, but I will do my best because actually it's going to be a relatively sophisticated Venn diagram. Okay, so we've got French, German and Spanish speakers. Okay, so we will work through this fairly methodically, but hopefully it will be okay, and hopefully you'll get a very similar sort of result with it. Okay, so we've got the universal set. Okay, and hopefully you'll be able to see this on the diagram. Okay, I'm going to move it up, and then hopefully if you've got a copy of the actual paper in front of you, or you can put this on a separate screen, hopefully you'll be able to see how this is going to work. So I have then a big circle for French speakers, big circle for German speakers, okay, and then a circle for Spanish speakers. Okay, that's about the worst circles, but hopefully it'll give you some ideas. So we can say these people are French, these people are German, okay, and these people are Spanish. All right, so let's have a look then at the actual text itself. I'll see if I can get this on the screen as best I can. Okay, so we've got the very top of the screen, 31 people speak French. Well, they're going to be divided amongst this whole circle, so I can't really put that in. But I can say that if 2 people speak French, German and Spanish, I can put those in the middle, so I can cover that one. Okay, and then I've got 4 people speak French and Spanish, but not German. Okay, that's all right, I can do that because this is French and Spanish, doesn't include German, so I can put 4 into there. Okay, then I've got 7 speak German and Spanish. Okay, so 7 speak German and Spanish. Well, it might be that 2 of those also speak French. Okay, so because I need to have 7 within this area here, okay, 2 of them do speak French, but actually it means then there would be 5 that speak German and Spanish. Okay, so we'll carry on, and then we've got 8 do not speak any of the languages. Well, that's all right because they're the 8 that are actually going to sit in this particular area here. Okay, and then finally, to help us a little bit, we've got all 10 people who speak German speak at least one other language. All 10 people who speak German speak at least one other language. Okay, so there's 10 people who speak German. So at the moment I've got 5 here and I've got 2 here. So that's going to be 7 people in total. But I do know there's 10 people who speak German speak at least one other language. So it means there must be 3 in this area here, and they are the 10 people who speak German. But it also means then there's nobody that only speaks German. All the German speakers speak at least one other language. Okay, so let's have a look then at going back a little bit and seeing if we can answer this question a little bit more thoroughly. We've got French speakers. Well, right at the very beginning we had 31 French speakers. Well, at the moment we've accounted for 4, 6, 9 people, so it must mean then that 22 of them only speak French. Okay, then we've only got one final piece of the jigsaw over here, and if we add up all of these and the 8 over here, we find that actually we've got 44 people accounted for, so it must be 6 of them are actually just Spanish only speakers. Okay, so that's just about it really. The last bit of the question is work out the probability that they both, or 2 of the 50 people are chosen at random, work out the probability that they both only speak Spanish. Okay, so we know that 6 people only speak Spanish. Okay, so the first pick, if you like, the first time that we work out the probability, I would call it first pick, okay, is going to be 6 out of 50 because there's 50 people altogether and 6 of them speak Spanish only. Okay, however, it means that if they pick a Spanish only speaker first, it means now we've only got 5 of them left and there's only 49 to choose from because we've already picked out one of them from our previous first pick. So this is the second pick. Okay, and if we just multiply those through, we're going to get 3, bear in mind it's a calculator paper, so it's going to reduce it, so 3 out of 245, and actually that's the answer to this particular question. Okay, so there is quite a long playlist on Venn diagrams in the channel. Please do have a look, and there are some other examples of very similar sorts of questions. Okay, let's move move on to the final question. Okay, so question number 21. So we've got this proof, and it's a proof using parallelograms and right-angled triangles and some parallel lines as well. So it's a little bit tricky to follow, but hopefully you'll be able to follow me through on this particular proof. Okay, so the first thing is that we've got to prove that triangle ADP is congruent to triangle CBQ. Well, congruent basically means the same as. Okay, so we're saying there is ADP, so it's this one along here. That's ADP. Okay, is that the same as CBQ? So it's this one along here. I hope you'll be able to see this okay on the video. All right, so the first thing is that we can actually say that AD and BC, they are parallel to each other, and therefore they must be equal as well, because they're the opposite sides of the parallelogram. So AD equals BC, and the reason that is because they are opposite sides of a parallelogram. Okay, so that's my first comment. The next comment I would make is actually given to us on the drawing itself, where this angle, which is the right angle of ADP, and this angle, which is the right angle of QBC, are equal to each other because they're both right angles. So we can say that angle ADP equals angle QBC, and they are equal to 90 degrees. Okay, the final area that we look at is that actually the angles themselves are also equal to each other at this point here and also this point here. And the reason that is because they are both opposite sides of a parallelogram, or opposite angles in a parallelogram. So therefore we can say that angle DAB is equal to angle DCB, and that's because they are opposite angles, okay, in a parallelogram. Okay, and they are equal to each other in a parallelogram. Okay, so what we've got now is we've got side, angle, angle. So we can just write a conclusion there that therefore side, angle, angle, congruent, ADP equals CBQ. Okay, that's absolutely fine. Now you might have it slightly different way or slightly different order, but basically that's what they're looking for. Okay, and then finally we've got to explain why AQ is parallel to PC. So is that line and that line are both parallel to each other. Okay, so again, we actually have got a bit of a clue in the first one, is that we can say that AP equals QC. Okay, now the reason we're saying that is because the triangles themselves that we had before in part A are congruent to each other. So actually we can say that as the triangles, okay, are congruent. Okay, so that's the first line, and we've taken our clue from the first part of the question itself. Okay, the next little bit is we can say that AP and QC are parallel to each other, okay? Because if we look on the diagram itself, we've got AP and QC are both parallel lines, and it clearly says that on the diagram. So we can state that AP and QC are parallel to each other. Okay, so therefore we can draw the conclusion, because of these two things, that APQC is a parallelogram. Okay, and that is because AQ and, or rather, therefore PC are opposite each other. Okay, and if they are opposite each other, they are therefore parallel. Okay, and that would actually conclude this particular question and should give you the full 2 marks. Okay, so it's been quite a journey to get through this whole of paper 3. It is considered to be quite a challenging paper, this particular one, but I hope you have found this series of videos quite useful. Please do subscribe to the site, add a comment below if you're not sure about anything. Have a look at some of the playlists which I've mentioned periodically, and I look forward to seeing you inside the next series of videos.